Captain Emily Harrison walked slowly across the bridge of her ship, the UES Defiance. Her boots made soft clicking sounds on the metal floor. Around her, 200 crew members worked at their stations, checking systems and preparing for their first real battle. The ship felt alive with quiet energy, like a sleeping giant about to wake up. The Defiance was not like other warships. While most alien vessels stretched over a kilometer long and bristled with massive guns, the human ship was only 800 meters from front to back. To anyone looking from the outside, she seemed small and weak compared to the giant dreadnoughts that ruled space battles across the galaxy. Emily stopped at the large window that looked out into space. Earth hung in the distance, blue and white and beautiful. This might be the last time she saw her home world for a very long time. Maybe forever. "Captain," called Commander James Mitchell, walking over to join her. He was her second in command, a tall man with graying hair who had served with Emily for 5 years. "All departments report ready. We can leave whenever you give the word." Emily nodded but kept looking out at the stars. "James, do you remember what the Galactic Council said when they first saw our ship designs?" James smiled. "They called them cute. Said humans were trying to build toy boats while the real powers used proper warships." 15 years, Emily said quietly. 15 years our best engineers worked on this project. Not to build bigger guns or thicker armor, but to build something completely different. She turned to look at her bridge crew. Lieutenant David Chen sat at the engineering station, his fingers dancing over holographic displays that showed the ship's power systems. At the weapons console, Lieutenant Sarah Williams studied tactical readouts with intense focus. Helmsman Robert Thompson kept one eye on his navigation controls and another on the space around them. These people trusted her. They believed in the Defiance and what she represented. Emily could not let them down. "David," she called to the engineer. "How are our special systems?" "Shield harmonics running perfectly, Captain," David replied without looking up from his console. "The quantum field manipulators are responding exactly like the simulations said they would. We're ready to show the galaxy something they've never seen before." Emily walked over to the tactical display in the center of the bridge. The three-dimensional hologram showed the Defiance in detail. From the outside, she looked like a sleek, simple warship. But inside, she was packed with technology that no other species had ever imagined. The key was not trying to match what everyone else was doing. While alien races built massive ships with thousands of crew members and enough firepower to destroy planets, humans had asked a different question. What if there was a better way? The Defiance carried only 200 people instead of thousands. Her weapons were smaller but could change and adapt during battle. Her shields did not just block enemy fire, they could turn that fire into power for the ship itself. And her computer systems worked together in ways that made the entire vessel think and react like a living thing. "Sarah," Emily said to the tactical officer. "What do we know about where we're going?" Sarah Williams pulled up a star chart on her console. "The outer spiral territories, Captain. 3 systems that both humans and the Keth hegemony claim as their own. Intelligence says the Keth have moved a fleet there to block our expansion." The Keth hegemony. Emily had studied them for years. 4 different alien species that had joined together to build the largest military force in the galaxy. They believed that might made right, that whoever had the biggest guns got to make the rules. They had been conquering and controlling star systems for over 1,000 years. "How many ships?" Emily asked. "At least 12 heavy cruisers and 1 dreadnought," Sarah replied. "Each cruiser is twice our size. The dreadnought is." She paused. "It's 5 times larger than anything humans have ever built." Some of the bridge crew looked worried. Emily could understand why. On paper, the odds looked impossible. But the Defiance had not been built to fight on paper. She had been built to fight in space, against enemies who thought they knew everything about warfare. "Mr. Thompson," Emily called to the helmsman. "Take us out of orbit. Set course for the disputed territories." "Aye, Captain," Robert replied. His hands moved over the controls, and Emily felt the gentle vibration as the ship's engines came to life. As the Defiance moved away from Earth, Emily thought about the years of preparation that had led to this moment. The human military had studied every space battle in recorded history. They had learned from victories and defeats, from brilliant tactics and terrible mistakes. And they had realized something important. Every other species in the galaxy fought the same way. They built the biggest ships they could, packed them with the most powerful weapons available, and then tried to overwhelm their enemies with pure force. It was like using a sledgehammer to perform surgery. Humans had decided to be surgeons instead. The bridge was quiet as the stars grew brighter outside the windows. Emily knew her crew was thinking about their families back on Earth, about the risks they were taking, about whether they would live to see home again. But she also knew they believed in their mission. They were not just flying to defend human territory. They were flying to prove that humanity deserved a place among the great powers of the galaxy. That intelligence and innovation could triumph over size and tradition. That sometimes, the smallest ship could defeat the largest fleet. Emily Harrison smiled as she looked out at the stars ahead. The Keth hegemony was about to learn something new about warfare. And the galaxy would never be the same. 3 days later, the Defiance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the disputed system. Captain Emily Harrison immediately knew they were in trouble. Her tactical display lit up with contact markers, 12 heavy cruisers arranged in perfect battle formation, and behind them, something that made her breath catch in her throat. The Keth dreadnought was enormous. It stretched nearly 2 kilometers from front to back, its hull covered in weapon arrays that could level entire cities. The ship looked like a massive metal mountain floating in space, bristling with guns and missile tubes. Next to it, the human cruisers looked like toys. "Captain," Lieutenant Sarah Williams called from her tactical station, her voice tight with concern. "I'm reading enough firepower out there to destroy a small moon. That dreadnought alone has more guns than our entire home fleet." Emily studied the enemy formation. The Keth had positioned their ships perfectly to block any escape route. They had done this before, cornered smaller forces and given them a simple choice between surrender and death. But the Defiance was not here to surrender. "Incoming transmission," announced Communications Officer Lisa Roberts. "It's on all frequencies. They want us to receive it." "Put it on screen," Emily ordered. The main display flickered, and suddenly they were looking at an alien face that belonged in nightmares. Admiral Thexcol of the Keth hegemony had reptilian features with cold yellow eyes and rows of sharp teeth. Scars crisscrossed his face, evidence of countless battles. When he spoke, his voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Human vessel," the alien admiral said, his words dripping with contempt. "You have entered sovereign Keth territory without permission. This is an act of war against the hegemony. Withdraw immediately, or face total destruction." Emily stepped forward, keeping her voice calm and professional. "Admiral Thexcol, these star systems are disputed territory under the Galactic Accords. The human government has every legal right to send ships here for exploration and colonization." The Keth admiral's laugh was a horrible sound, like breaking glass mixed with animal growls. "Legal rights? Your pathetic species has been flying between stars for less than 100 years. We have ruled this region of space for over 3,000 years. We were building empires when your ancestors were still living in caves." Behind Emily, she heard Commander James Mitchell whisper something to David Chen about weapons readiness. She held up one hand slightly, telling them to wait. "Not yet. Admiral," Emily continued, "we're not here to start a war. We simply want to establish peaceful colonies in uninhabited systems. There's room for both our species to expand without conflict." Thexgol's eyes narrowed to thin slits. "There is no room for inferior species in Keth space. You will turn around and flee back to your small corner of the galaxy, or you will be destroyed as an example to others who might challenge our authority." Emily looked around her bridge. Her crew was watching her, waiting for orders. David Chen had quietly activated the ship's defensive systems. Sarah Williams had weapon targeting solutions ready. Robert Thompson's hands hovered over the helm controls, ready to take evasive action. They all knew what was coming. "I understand your position, Admiral," Emily said carefully. "But I'm afraid I cannot comply with your demands. The Defiance has a mission to complete, and we intend to see it through." The alien's face twisted with rage. "Foolish humans. Do you not see what stands before you? 13 warships against your single tiny vessel. My dreadnought Worldrender carries enough weapons to crack the crust of a planet. Your ship is nothing more than a metal coffin floating in space." Emily felt a cold calm settle over her. This was the moment she had trained for her entire career. "Admiral, I've studied the history of warfare across many species. I've learned that the outcome of battle is not always determined by who has the bigger guns." "Pretty words will not save you," Thexcol snarled. "You have 30 seconds to begin your retreat, or we will demonstrate why the Keth hegemony has never lost a fleet engagement." The transmission cut to static, leaving the bridge of the Defiance in tense silence. Emily turned to face her crew. Every person was at their station, ready to do their duty even though they were facing impossible odds. "James," she said to her first officer, "what did they teach us at the academy about David and Goliath?" Commander Mitchell smiled grimly. That sometimes the smallest fighter wins because he's willing to try something the big guy never expects. Emily nodded. Sarah, how long until they're in optimal firing range? 2 minutes, Captain. Their formation suggests they're planning an overwhelming alpha strike, hit us with everything they have all at once. Perfect, Emily said, surprising her crew. That's exactly what we want them to do. David, are our special defensive systems ready? The engineer's face was pale, but his voice was steady. Shield harmonics are at full power, Captain. Quantum field manipulators are online and responding normally. We're as ready as we'll ever be. Emily walked over to her command chair and pressed the ship-wide communication button. Her voice echoed through every corridor and compartment of the Defiance. All hands, this is the captain. In 60 seconds, we're going to be attacked by a force that outnumbers us 13-1. By every conventional measure, we should be destroyed instantly. But the Defiance is not a conventional ship, and we are not a conventional crew. Today, we're going to show the galaxy that human ingenuity and courage can overcome any odds. All stations, prepare for combat. She settled into her chair and watched the enemy ships begin their attack approach. Soon, the Keth would learn that humans had their own ideas about how space battles should be fought. The space around the Defiance suddenly filled with death. Dozens of particle beams and plasma cannons fired at once from the Keth fleet, creating streams of deadly energy that could melt through the thickest armor ever built. Missile trails streaked across the darkness like angry comets, each one carrying enough explosive power to destroy a city block. Captain Emily Harrison gripped her command chair as the bridge lights dimmed. Every person on the ship held their breath, knowing that in seconds they would either be alive or scattered atoms floating in space. The combined firepower racing toward them could have destroyed 10 ships the size of the Defiance. Brace for impact. Commander James Mitchell shouted over the growing hum of energy weapons. But Emily remained perfectly calm. David, engage shield harmonics. Full power to the quantum field manipulators. Aye, Captain. Engineer David Chen's fingers flew over his controls. Shield harmonics active. Quantum fields at maximum intensity. What happened next made the Keth fleet wonder if they were seeing things. The devastating energy barrage struck the Defiance and simply disappeared. Instead of the expected explosion that should have vaporized the human ship, there was only a brilliant light show as the enemy weapons fire was absorbed and redirected through invisible channels in space itself. The Defiance emerged from the attack completely unharmed, her hull gleaming like new metal under the starlight. Admiral Thexgol's voice crackled over the communication system, filled with shock and disbelief. Impossible. No shield system can deflect that much concentrated firepower. What sorcery is this? Emily allowed herself a small smile. The Keth had just learned their first lesson about fighting humans. Mr. Thompson, take us into the enemy formation. Pattern Delta 7. Helmsman Robert Thompson's hands moved over his controls with practiced skill. The Defiance suddenly accelerated far beyond anything the alien ships had expected from a vessel her size. She darted between the massive Keth cruisers like a hummingbird flying through a forest of trees. How is that small ship moving so fast? One of the Keth captains demanded over an open channel. Our sensors show impossible acceleration rates. Sarah, target the lead cruiser's main weapon arrays, Emily ordered. Surgical strikes only. Disable, don't destroy. Lieutenant Sarah Williams worked with deadly precision, her targeting computers linked directly to the ship's artificial intelligence systems. While human intuition selected the targets, machine calculation ensured perfect accuracy. The combination was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Defiance's weapons reconfigured themselves as she moved. Long-range railguns folded back into the hull while close-quarters plasma arrays extended outward. The ship's modular design allowed her to adapt to any combat situation in seconds rather than the hours it took larger vessels to change their weapon configurations. Firing. Sarah announced. Precise energy beams lanced out from the human ship, striking the Keth cruiser's gun mounts with surgical accuracy. Explosions bloomed along the alien vessel's hull as its main weapons were systematically destroyed. In less than 30 seconds, the massive warship was helpless, its crew struggling to understand how they had been defeated so quickly. Target neutralized, Sarah reported. Moving to the next ship. The Defiance was already accelerating toward another Keth cruiser, her incredible speed making her nearly impossible to track. The alien ships tried to bring their massive guns to bear, but the human vessel was never where they expected her to be. Their formation is breaking apart, observed Commander Mitchell, studying the tactical display. They can't coordinate their fire when we keep moving like this. Emily nodded. The Keth had spent centuries perfecting their battle tactics, but those tactics assumed that enemy ships would behave in predictable ways. The rigid formation that had served them so well against conventional opponents became a weakness when facing an enemy that fought by completely different rules. Another Keth cruiser found its weapons disabled as the Defiance struck with lightning precision and then vanished again into the chaos of the battle. The alien crews were panicking, unused to being outmaneuvered by a single small ship. "Admiral Thex Cole is ordering his ships to spread out," reported Lisa Roberts from the communications station. "He's trying to give them room to maneuver." "Too late," Emily said quietly. "David, how are our power levels?" "Actually increasing, Captain," the engineer replied with amazement in his voice. "Our quantum field manipulators are converting their weapons fire into usable energy. The more they shoot at us, the stronger we become." It was true. The Defiance's revolutionary shield system did not just absorb enemy fire, it transformed that energy into fuel for the ship's own systems. Every Keth weapon that fired at the human vessel only made her faster, stronger, and more dangerous. A third Keth cruiser lost its main guns to the Defiance's precise strikes. Then a fourth. The massive alien warships, each one capable of conquering entire star systems, were being systematically dismantled by a single human vessel that seemed to dance between their attacks like smoke. "This is impossible." Admiral Thex Cole's voice had lost its earlier confidence and now carried a note of fear. "No single ship can defeat an entire fleet." Emily keyed her communication system. "Admiral, you're thinking like someone who builds bigger hammers to solve every problem. Humans prefer to build smarter tools." The Defiance completed another impossible maneuver, appearing behind two Keth cruisers and disabling both before they could react. Her crew worked with seamless precision, human creativity and machine efficiency combining in ways that no other species had ever achieved. 5 enemy ships neutralized, Sarah reported. 7 still active, including the Dreadnought. "Excellent work, everyone," Emily said. "But we're just getting started. Mr. Thompson, set course for the World Render. Time to show Admiral Thex Cole what David can really do to Goliath." The small human ship turned toward the massive enemy Dreadnought, ready to prove that in space warfare, intelligence and innovation could triumph over size and brute force. Admiral Thex Cole watched in growing horror as his mighty fleet crumbled before a single human ship. 5 of his heavy cruisers drifted helpless in space, their weapons destroyed by impossibly precise strikes. The small vessel called Defiance moved through his formation like a ghost, appearing where she was least expected and vanishing before his remaining ships could respond. "All vessels, concentrate fire on the human ship," he commanded through gritted teeth. "Forget formation protocols. Destroy that cursed vessel by any means necessary." The surviving Keth cruisers turned their guns toward the Defiance, filling space with deadly energy. But Captain Emily Harrison had one more surprise to reveal. "David, activate quantum entanglement communication with all weapon systems," she ordered calmly. Engineer David Chen's hands flew over his controls. "Quantum entanglement active, Captain. All systems now operating with zero-latency coordination." What happened next defied everything the Keth knew about space combat. While their massive ships struggled with communication delays across their kilometer-long hulls, every component of the Defiance worked in perfect instant harmony. Weapons fired the moment targets appeared. Shields adjusted to incoming threats before enemy gunners had even pulled their triggers. The entire ship moved and fought like a single living organism. "Impossible," shouted one of the Keth captains. "They're responding to our attacks before we make them." Lieutenant Sarah Williams at the tactical station was amazed by what she was seeing on her displays. "Captain, our response time is literally faster than light. We're reacting to threats as they are being planned, not after they are executed." The Defiance demonstrated this impossible capability by dodging a coordinated attack from 3 cruisers, her hull spinning through space in a complex dance that avoided dozens of energy beams by mere meters. Before the alien crews could adjust their aim, the human ship had already disabled 2 more vessels and moved beyond their firing range. Admiral Thex Cole's rage finally overcame his military discipline. "World Render, full ramming speed. Crush that tiny ship beneath our hull." The massive Dreadnought began to accelerate toward the Defiance, its enormous bulk gaining momentum like a falling mountain. At nearly 2 kilometers long and massing 50 times more than the human vessel, the World Render could destroy the smaller ship simply by running into it. "Captain, that Dreadnought is moving directly at us," warned helmsman Robert Thompson. "At their current speed, they'll reach us in 90 seconds. Emily studied her tactical display with calm concentration. The world render was indeed enormous and powerful, but it was also exactly what she had been waiting for. Mr. Chen, prepare the experimental jump drive for microjump operations. David Chen's face went pale. Captain, we've never tested microjumps in actual combat conditions. The calculations are extremely complex, and if we make even a small error. David, Emily interrupted gently, do you trust our computer systems? With my life, Then prepare for emergency jump. Sarah, I want targeting solutions for the world render's engine sections the moment we complete the jump. Aye, Captain. Solutions ready. The Defiance continued flying directly toward the charging dreadnought as if nothing had changed. To the Keth crews watching, it looked like the human ship was committing suicide, accepting destruction rather than trying to escape. 30 seconds to impact. Thompson called out. Hold course, Emily ordered. 20 seconds. Steady as she goes. Admiral Thexcole laughed with triumph as he watched the tiny human ship grow larger in his forward displays. Foolish humans. You cannot escape the world render. Your arrogance ends here. 10 seconds to impact. Thompson's voice was tight with tension. 5 seconds. Now. Emily commanded. The Defiance vanished from space just as the massive dreadnought reached her position. For a moment, the Keth crews thought they had won, that the human ship had been vaporized by their flagship's approach. Then sensors began screaming warnings throughout the Keth fleet. The Defiance had reappeared directly behind their formation. The microjump had carried the human ship across several thousand kilometers of space in an instant, positioning her perfectly to attack the world render's vulnerable rear sections. The maneuver was supposed to be impossible according to every known law of physics, but the Defiance had just proved that human engineers sometimes knew better than physics textbooks. Target acquired. Sarah announced. Firing. Precise energy beams struck the dreadnought's engine systems, causing massive explosions along its hull. The world render shuddered as its main propulsion failed, leaving the enormous vessel drifting helpless in space. Impossible. Thexcole screamed. Ships cannot jump at such short distances. The energy requirements alone would destroy any vessel. Emily activated her communication system. Admiral, you keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. Human ships are designed to do the impossible. The remaining Keth cruisers tried desperately to target the Defiance, but their weapons could not track her incredible speed and maneuverability. The human ships seemed to predict their every move, always staying one step ahead of their targeting systems. David, how much energy do we have stored from their weapons? Emily asked. More than enough to power the entire ship for a week, Captain. Their attacks are actually making us stronger with each shot they fire. Emily smiled. The battle was turning exactly as she had planned. The Keth had relied on overwhelming firepower for so long that they had forgotten there might be other ways to fight. Now they were learning that sometimes the smallest ship could indeed defeat the largest fleet, if that small ship was designed by humans who refused to accept that bigger always meant better. The Defiance prepared for the final phase of her impossible victory. Admiral Thexcole stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. 8 of his heavy cruisers floated dead in space, their weapons destroyed by surgical strikes from the human vessel. His mighty dreadnought world render drifted powerless, its engines offline and emergency systems struggling to keep basic life support running. Only 4 of his ships remained capable of fighting, and even those were damaged. This cannot be happening, he whispered to himself. One small ship cannot defeat the entire Keth fleet. But the evidence floated before his eyes. The Defiance continued to dance through space around his remaining vessels, untouchable and deadly. Every time his crews tried to target the human ship, she vanished and appeared somewhere else, striking with impossible precision before disappearing again. Thexcole's pride finally snapped. If he was going to lose this battle, he would take the cursed human ship with him. All power to main weapons, he commanded his crew. Channel everything into the planet killer beam. The world render's backup reactors came online with a deep thrumming sound that shook the massive ship. Emergency power flowed into the dreadnought's primary weapon, a beam capable of cracking continents and boiling oceans. It was a weapon of last resort, designed to destroy entire worlds that refused to submit to Keth rule. Sir, the power requirements will overload our damaged systems, warned his chief engineer. I don't care. Thexcole snarled. Charge the weapon to maximum power and fire. Aboard the Defiance, Lieutenant Sarah Williams watched her sensors with growing alarm. Captain, they're channeling massive amounts of energy into their main gun. That beam could destroy half the star system. Captain Emily Harrison studied the readings carefully. The world render was preparing to fire a weapon that could level planets. It was exactly the kind of overwhelming force that the Keth had always relied upon. But Emily had been waiting for this moment. David, can our shield harmonics handle that much energy input? She asked her engineer. David Chen's face was pale as he ran calculations on his console. Theoretically, yes. But Captain, if our harmonic resonance cascade fails, that beam will vaporize us instantly. What does the theory say about creating a feedback loop with that much power? David's eyes widened as he understood what Emily was planning. If we can establish a stable resonance pattern, we could send their own energy back through subspace directly into their ship systems. But the timing has to be perfect. Emily nodded calmly. Then we'd better make sure our timing is perfect. All hands, prepare for maximum shield harmonics. The Worldrender's planet killer weapon reached full charge. The massive gun extending from the dreadnought's front section glowed with enough energy to destroy worlds. Admiral Thexcole placed his clawed hand over the firing control. Die, humans, he screamed, and pressed the button. A beam of pure destruction lanced across space toward the Defiance. The energy was so intense that it made the vacuum itself glow, creating a river of death that nothing could survive. For a moment, it seemed that the small human ship would finally be destroyed. But Emily Harrison had not brought her ship this far to fail now. David, engage harmonic resonance cascade. Maximum power. Cascade engaged. David shouted over the growing hum of the ship's systems. Feedback loop established. The Defiance's revolutionary shield system did something that no Keth scientist had thought possible. Instead of simply absorbing or deflecting the planet killer beam, the shields created a quantum resonance that sent the weapon's own energy back through subspace, directly into the Worldrender's power systems. The massive dreadnought began to glow as its own weapon's energy overloaded every system aboard the ship. Emergency alarms wailed throughout the vessel as the crew fought desperately to prevent a complete meltdown. Explosions bloomed along the Worldrender's hull as secondary systems failed under the impossible power surge. Impossible. Admiral Thexcole gasped as his command bridge filled with smoke and sparks. Our own weapon, how did you turn it against us? Emily's voice came through the communication system, calm and respectful despite her complete victory. Admiral, we tried to tell you. Humans don't solve problems by building bigger weapons. We solve them by understanding how the universe really works. The surviving Keth ships watched in terror as their flagship continued to overload from its own redirected firepower. The Worldrender's hull glowed like a small sun as its crew struggled to prevent total destruction. Admiral, Emily continued, I suggest you order your remaining ships to withdraw. You've lost this engagement, and there's no point in losing more lives. For long moments, space was filled only with the crackling of damaged systems and the hiss of escaping atmosphere. Finally, Thexcole's voice responded, and for the first time it carried something that might have been respect. Captain Harrison, how is this possible? Your ship is so small. Your crew numbers only in the hundreds. We have ruled space for 3,000 years. Admiral, Emily replied gently, ruling space and understanding space are two different things. Today, I hope both our species have learned something valuable. The Admiral was quiet for another long moment. Then, with great difficulty, he gave the order that no Keth commander had ever given before. All ships, withdraw. Return to base. 3 weeks later, Captain Emily Harrison stood before the Galactic Maritime Council on the neutral station orbiting Proxima Centauri. But this time, she was not requesting permission to join their organization. She was announcing that humanity would take its rightful place among the great powers of the galaxy. The age of ruling through fear and overwhelming force is ending, she told the assembled alien representatives. The future belongs to those who can think, adapt, and innovate. Around the galaxy, other species began studying human engineering principles and tactical innovations. Earth's shipyards worked day and night producing new Defiance-class vessels, each one a testament to human ingenuity. The small ship that defeated an entire fleet had changed everything. Humanity had earned its place among the stars.